Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of an awesome podcast by a bunch of college kids who happen to be Orthodox Christian. As you can see, this is our first in-person podcast, so that's pretty cool. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to maintain a relationship with God while you're in college. Who wants to go first?
Perfect. All right.
Yeah, I'll do a quick start. I think my relationship with God, I think it improved in college, and not I think it did, and it grew over the years. So I would say the past 4 or 5 years, I've really had a growth in my spiritual life. So I don't know. I kind of go off that. Do you feel like your faith improved, decreased? How do you feel it kind of was steady?
Yeah, I could go first if you guys want. Personally, I think it improved, one, because I think college got a lot harder than high school, so I needed God in a sense more. I feel like to prepare for a test, I would pray, asking God more in college than in high school for help. That's how I feel. So I also agree that it improved during college.
So since we're all sharing personal experiences, my relationship with God actually started in college, and it was more so because of the situation. I mean, when I started college, I just had one semester on campus, and then the COVID pandemic hit, and so I think that's kind of what sparked my relationship with God. Just that uncertain times just really helped me get more in touch with my faith.
Thank you. I love what you guys are sharing. So actually, I have a really similar story. My faith grew in college, actually towards the end. So when I first started college, I was not very close to God. I did love God. I mean, I've been Christian my whole life, but I definitely got closer to God my senior year, and it was after the pandemic. So that summer of 2020. So that's kind of where that started.
I think for me, my relationship with God has been somewhat decent as I entered college and at the end of high school. And then I'm going to be honest, it kind of took a toll from there, maybe sophomore year. And then junior year when the pandemic, just because sophomore year, beginning of junior year, it's a lot of distractions and surrounding yourself. Obviously, a lot of people in college are not Orthodox or similar like-minded. And you just kind of being away from that takes you away from the church. But I think junior year, senior year, obviously when the pandemic happened, I started growing closer to God. I started to slow things down a little bit, reflect, lots of time to reflect. And then now that I graduated, I realized, okay, now that everything's done, just got to refocus, regather myself. It grew ever since then. Ever since my mid-junior year, senior year, it's been growing since. And I've been starting to read a lot more spiritual books and being more mindful in my prayers and reflecting more.
I feel like when I first got to college that I wasn't in touch with God as I usually was, just because I've gone to church basically every Sunday of my life. And then when I did go to college, I wasn't, so I moved away from that. And then when the pandemic hit and I moved home, I started to get more in touch with God and started to talk to him more and just get more in depth with myself and my faith. And I felt like I didn't have a lot of Orthodox friends when I was at college, so that kind of pulled me away from it for a little while until I found an Orthodox club on campus. And the past year, my sophomore year, I've been going to their weekly meetings, and it's been really good to just have people on campus who have the same faith.
I just have a question, whoever wants to answer. It seems like all of us kind of grew our faith and our relationship with God through the pandemic. I don't know. I feel like we all have. So I just want to ask whoever wants to answer or who has a response, why do you think that happened? Is it more time we had? Is it whatever? I don't know. I just wanted to ask that.
I think, I was actually about to ask the same question. I think it's that, I think as much as the pandemic sucks, it really slows down. I mean, the beginning of it, not current state or the end of 2020, whatever that was. It really slowed everything down and really it was the first major event in the world that we've had to really think and reflect about our day-to-day lives. And it makes you realize you don't really appreciate something until you don't have it anymore. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of people were obviously very scared and nervous at the beginning. They started praying more. And for most of us, we've continued that throughout our normal lives today. And as we're slowly kind of emerging out of the pandemic, we're trying to continue that same level of faith that we had at the beginning back to our day-to-day normal lives.
That's amazing. Yeah, I actually agree with that. That's a great perspective. And then I was going to add that actually when the pandemic started, the growth of the social media platform TikTok started, and that's where everybody was on and everybody started sharing Christianity videos. So that's actually how me and my sister got introduced to the faith, because we saw videos of Christians and they started Bible studies online on Zoom. And so that's kind of how we got introduced to all of this. Everything happened online. So I feel like TikTok played a big role as well.
No, of course. Also, I'm her sister, just in case anyone was wondering. Yeah. So yeah, my faith also did start from TikTok actually, and so because you had nothing to do, you were just at home all the time, and so I was like, okay, I'll download this app, I'll scroll through, and that's how I got introduced to the faith, and so that helped me a lot actually get connected to my spiritual life in that sort of way. But I think a lot of it has to do with how uncertain the world was. I think everyone was just so confused and there was so much uncertainty, and so people just wanted to find some sort of truth. They just wanted to find something, and so people drifted here, people drifted there, and I personally drifted into the faith, and so as have many people also have gone closer to God during the pandemic. So that's kind of what I wanted to add.
It kind of makes you realize that you shouldn't, looking back at it, we shouldn't just be praying when we need something or when we're scared for something, but we should be praying like when we're grateful for something, and just every day, just 'cause, even
That's
when nothing's going on, nothing's going bad.
That's true. It should be like breathing. Like you shouldn't have to think about it. Like it should be a part of your daily life. It doesn't, like you shouldn't think of prayer like, oh, I have to sit and think and plan it out. A simple prayer could be like, hey, God, thanks for today. Like, thanks for giving me a new day.
Also, I just want to add, it did take a lot of time to build my prayer life personally. And so it does take time, it does take effort and consistency to build that your prayer life and get to the point where it becomes effortless and where it's just like breathing. And so it does take time, but that's helped me maintain my relationship with God throughout the pandemic and throughout college, and it's definitely with praying. So
And I think the pandemic helped a lot with that, as like everybody was saying, because I feel like the world was just going really, really fast, and a lot of people were just going through so many things right before the pandemic started. I mean, if you ask anybody, I feel like everybody I've talked to just was like having problems, and when the pandemic hit, everything just like slowed down, and everybody had a lot of time to reflect on themselves. So I think that's part of the reason why, I don't want to say that's why COVID happened, but it gave us a chance to slow down, reflect on ourselves, see what we need to improve on. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think what really helped for me, kind of what you guys have been talking about, was really the quiet and the stillness that the world kind of fell into. And it's kind of like Christ, whenever he needed to be close with the Father, he would go out and isolate himself from everything and find a time of quiet, maybe by the shore, go out, somewhere, in the wilderness. And so even Christ did, and he does that to show us an example of what to do. And I feel like that really gave us all the chance during this time of hardship to do so. And that really helped my faith grow, especially over this, past year and a half. And, I was kind of already trying to grow in my faith, before then, but this really, in a way, I felt helped speed it up. I think it helped because now I really could focus more on my fasting and realize that fasting was more than beyond food, and really focus on the internal aspects. And then also I was able to do a little bit more reading, have more time with my spiritual father, really go into deeper prayer by going out to time, finding that time of silence, going somewhere, not being distracted by so many things of the world, whether it's social media, even school. And school's good, stay in school, kids. But it can get distracting sometimes. You know, even our good intentions sometimes are used against us. And I feel like the most important aspect of this was my environment. I think that's what helped me grow the most was the environment, because I really had a chance to focus on my spiritual life. You know, as things kind of got a little bit better throughout the year, you know, there's people started coming back to church, and having that environment of around other Orthodox Christians really helped me grow my faith. Being able to speak with my spiritual father more often helped a lot, and allowed me to look more internally than I really could before, because there weren't people calling me left and right, let's hang out, let's go do this, let's do that. No, it's more, well, what am I going to do today? What am I going to think about today? What am I going to reflect on? What am I going to work on improving? So for me, that's kind of what I took the most out of it. I feel like we really got a chance, and hopefully a lot of people got that chance to be like Christ and take that time of silence and rebuild their foundation. At least for me, I needed to restart my foundation, and it kind of started with the silence. So
Well said. Beautifully said. All right. Okay, so I would like to ask you guys a question actually. So, how do you guys deal with temptations in college? And that could be anything, because sometimes with people on campus. So, what do you guys have to say?
So actually, given like with the circumstances of the world today, I personally didn't get much experience on campus, and I also didn't even dorm on campus that one semester I did have. So I mean, of course, this is just personally, you know, everyone's experience is different, but I wasn't on campus much. I was just there just for classes, and I pretty much left. And so I wouldn't say, you know, it's our campus doesn't have that much of a Christian community even. I don't even think we have an Orthodox club or even a Christian club. And so I never was surrounded by the faith. And so, you know, I wouldn't say like dealt with temptations really, because I wasn't really on campus. I didn't really go to parties. I didn't, you know, do that sort of worldly stuff. So that's just me personally, but of course it could be a struggle for many other Christians on campus who do dorm, or you know, who did have more experience on campus at least. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I started college. Well, my first year of college, it was in person, but that wasn't. I was a freshman. I didn't really. It was more focused on getting settled in. But like through COVID, I think the more temptations I had was more laziness type of temptations, where it's like I would spend most of my day either on YouTube, on Instagram, on Snapchat, you know, getting distracted. So what helped me through that was kind of within my school schedule, within the classes, I would create a prayer schedule. So having a time, like in the morning, 8 o'clock pray, then class, then 12 o'clock pray, and then class, then at the end of the day, I have my evening prayers. That's kind of what helped me through the whole, I don't know, laziness, temptation. But yeah, that's how I dealt with it through this whole COVID.
Well, I think was I the only person who was in dorms my first year? Oh, Michael was too. But my first quarter in dorms was super hard for me. I mean, if you talked to me then, it was really hard. There were things thrown at me like left and right, like a crazy roommate, lacrosse players on my floor that were peeing on each other's beds. I swear, that was it was weird. Okay. It was intense.
we want people to go to college now.
No.
We don't discourage the kids.
I'm not discouraging anybody from going to college, but there are going to be situations that you are put in, like when you are on campus basically 24/7 and you're seeing everything, and it just, I don't know, that environment just was not for me. Everyone on my floor was partying in frats and sororities. I mean, I'm in a sorority, but I'm in an Arab sorority, and no one really does that. It's just not in our nature to. It's nobody really wants to, you know. So I put myself in an environment that kind of takes me away from that like party culture, you know.
That's beautifully said. I love all of your responses. So, what I would say, well, I just graduated, and also half of my college experience was also online because of a pandemic. But when I first started my freshman, sophomore year, also I didn't dorm. So, I also wasn't really around anything that could tempt me. And in my nature, I don't normally get tempted from that. But I agree with what you said about the laziness tendencies, because that's a big one, I think, for most of us, especially with social media. So yeah, I feel like praying really helps, because how I think about it is I'm like, what would God say in this situation? Like, would God agree to this? So I just kind of follow like what I believe that God would do. Like, what would Christ do in this situation? So that's kind of how I deal with everything, even now after graduating college. So yeah.
Now I have to kind of go back and reflect because I actually had the spring off, so I have to remember what it was like back in the good old college days. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I don't know if they could hear you from the mic. What he was asking, or just say it again.
How was your spiritual life without school? Because that could be different too.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of order with a schedule. You know.
yeah. I'll be honest. I feel like while not being in school for a semester, I feel like I learned a lot more in life than I did all these years in school, to be completely honest. But in a different way. And that's kind of what I was going to reflect on actually on in terms of the temptation of school. I was trying to think, what temptations. And there's a lot. But I feel like the biggest one for me was while having that semester off, I no longer was trying to chase this idea of what I wanted in the world. Like chasing your major, chasing what you want to study, which is good. You should work hard. You should, find your God's purpose for you and, work towards what your goals are. But sometimes it does. I feel like sometimes it can consume us. And I feel like for me, it did for a while. And having the semester off really gave me more time to reflect and, what do I really want in life? How do I want to be in the image of Christ? How do I want to go about and have a family one day and God willing? And, where kind of do I see myself headed? And it took a lot of thinking, a lot of struggling, a lot of temptation on the way. But with the guidance of my spiritual father, you kind of narrow things down and figure them out. But of course, you have to continue to test the spirit to see where God wants us and where life takes us. So the biggest one for me was not chasing something in regards to school. And that's the first time I really got to experience that because I wasn't in any classes. I didn't have anything going on. I had classes during the winter, and after that I had a few months off, and currently until I start again in the fall. So that's the biggest thing for me. I wasn't chasing a future idea. That's what it is. I wasn't chasing this idea of what I felt like I wanted my life to be, what I said my life should be. It was more of, God, what do you want for me? There's a prayer you can say. I don't want to say the wrong saint's name, so I'm not going to say which saint. I forget which, but it's you can say, Lord, thou knowest all things. Do with me as thou willest, or something around those lines. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But I started, I practiced trying to say that prayer more often. It's a short one, and it's a powerful one. And I feel like saying that and trying to embody and truly live to it every day gives you a chance to reflect. So I think having a semester off really allowed me to explore my faith more deeply because I didn't have this idea of where I want to go. Because school which is good, but sometimes it consumes us, like I said. Our good intentions can be used against us, like I said earlier. So I feel like that time off gave me more chance to reflect on myself and not be so busy in my schedule with classes and trying to get the perfect A in the class and trying to be top of my class and this and that, or so I think that's the biggest takeaway. There's a lot that happened, but that's to answer your question. That's what I would say.
Even in the Our Father, like it mentions, I know a lot of people say it really fast during liturgy or just say it kind of blindly, but even if you look into the words, thy will be done, like it's not our will be done, it's God's will be done. And I was kind of in the same boat as you, Andres. I was trying to chase something that I didn't even want to do. Like, I want to go to this engineering major, I want to graduate, so there's going to be lots of money. I'm like, do I even want to do that anymore? No. Like, what am I doing this? What's the real purpose? But I don't want this podcast or this episode to discourage anyone from going to, even if they want to live at the dorms, like some people have to live at dorms. It's fine to live at dorms. It's fine to live at home. But college does teach people a lot of good life lessons. And for me, it took me 4 years to learn this. Balance. Work life, school life, social life, and spiritual life. My freshman year, I found a church in San Jose, St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church, which I started going to when I was in Santa Clara. When I was here at home, I came here to St. George. And took some days some days are more spiritual based, some days were heavy on the work based, and some days were heavy on the social life. And obviously none of us are perfect, but it definitely does teach us to have a good balance and to balance our lifestyles, but ultimately put our faith and our spiritual life on top.
Amazing. I love everything that was said. I hope you guys can take from this and like use it in your life. But yeah, college is definitely fun. It really is how you make it, and you have to definitely stay close to
And
God.
yeah, I just want to add on, as like what Michael was saying, I don't want to like discourage anybody from like getting an education because things happen in college, but it is a time to reflect and learn, and I did learn a lot. My past 2 years in college, I think I've grown more as a person these past 2 years than I have in my entire life, because I was put in uncomfortable situations, but I found ways out of those situations, and I didn't allow myself to be infiltrated by all those temptations and by all of those bad feelings and thoughts. And I tried to replace it with good intentions and good people who weren't trying to be crazy. we can do another podcast on my crazy roommate, but yeah, just that's a lawsuit. Her dad's gonna come for me. Take this out on Tress. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, just make sure while you are in college that you are trying to surround yourself with good people who are like-minded as yourself, who want the best for you and aren't going to make you uncomfortable or pressure you into anything, because you don't want to deal with that. You don't want to be put in those situations where you don't even want to be in the first place. So when you go to college or even in high school, try to surround yourselves with like-minded peoples. Just make sure that you're trying to stay on a good path, and you'll see why after it ends.
Wait.
Just on another note, what Rita was saying, kind of surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. This doesn't just help you with your spiritual life, but in general in life, you want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals to help you excel in life, to help you push you in life, to motivate you. You don't want to surround yourself with people that will hold you back in life for your full potential, not just spiritually, but also to get to your goals in life. School, work, spiritual goals too. So I want to emphasize that point Rita made.
So to add to Rita's point, I just want to say, yes, you should definitely surround yourself with like-minded people, but also there's some people that had friends since like high school or middle school and they carry on with them, and sometimes you fade away from them and your mindsets shift. So it doesn't hurt sometimes to talk about your faith with those people, even if they're different, because sometimes you can actually impact people and change their mindset. And I've had situations where I was friends with people who were not Christians, but I opened up their eyes to the faith. So you should not always back away from people who are different, but it really just depends on you. So
I just want to go really quick because I don't know if I want to make sure I didn't make school look bad either. No, so I'm starting again in the fall, so education is very important because you actually do learn a lot, because through those trials and those temptations, it actually helps you grow in your faith as well. It really tests your faith. Like Christ says, "Do you love me?" And those moments in college and even high school, middle school, wherever you're at right now, even if after you graduated, at work, it all plays a part. And it really helps strengthen your faith. Even when you fall, get back up. Just don't stay down. God works with us at our own pace. So I feel like college did play a big part in that as well. The semester off definitely did help, but I've been in school all my life before that, and during those years in college, it really did help me at least look more internally as well. Those moments, and really as I grew in my faith and guiding myself through school, and like you guys were saying earlier about time management and figuring that out with a school schedule and how do you fit your spiritual life in there. And school also helps with work ethic. It really helps you build a work ethic as well. And what you can do is, it's not necessarily just one or the other, but how do you carry your spiritual life into your work, into your school life, but also what can you take from your school life and build into your spiritual life? Like you learn not to procrastinate in school. Well, don't procrastinate with your prayers. You learn in your spiritual life how to be focused on your spiritual life. Take that same focus and use it in school. Just some examples. So it's all very important. And, I understand some people don't necessarily take the college route nowadays. That becomes more popular. But, it depends what you're doing, of course. So I recommend school is very important. And for the people that aren't going to school, doesn't mean you're doing something bad either. The most important aspect of our life at the end of the day is focusing on your spiritual life and carrying that into all other aspects of your life. So whatever your path may be, just focus on Christ and you'll be taken care of at the end of the day. Just walk with him.
That's a great point to end it. So I don't need to say anything.
Yeah, because Christ doesn't change. Everything in your life changes. You're going to graduate eventually. Your career, everything is temporary, but Christ is not temporary. So.
Yeah, everything is just trial and error. Even if one way doesn't work, don't be discouraged about anything. There's a million other ways it could work. So you just have to figure out what's right for you, because what's right for one person might not be right for another. We're all unique individuals, but we're all made perfect in God's eyes. So just try to find a way you can find that for yourself. But I think on that note, we're going to be ending this podcast today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And this is Precious Vessel, and we are Andres, Jennifer, Jaylene, Khalil, Michael, and Rita. See you next time. I called you Chris. I know. These are bloopers.